13 Questions by Man Transcending. Manhood in the Digital Age.
Tonight, we had on Robert. Dude.
Bonomo.
Great pick. So you're really into tarot, Bill, which has been something that's kind of re-intrigued me. I should say one of the reasons for me getting a deck recently is because you speak so often of doing it, and it's always been something that's kind of been there in my interest, but I decided to ask Angie for a deck for Christmas, and man, I've been throwing every day for a couple of, I don't know, maybe a week and a half now, and been just really impressed with the just uncanniness of it. So thanks, Bill.
Not a problem. I'm glad that it was a positive. It's been positive for you so far. But yeah, Robert is I talk about this a little bit before the intro, but yeah, I know him because he's the first guy that gave me a tarot reading. And coming from somebody that has grown up in the Catholic Church, that was kind of like a huge thing for me back when I did first do it, because I was just, in my mind, I was like, oh, I can never tell anybody about this because they'll be, Catholics don't do tarot. What are you silly thinking, But now I'm talking about it on a podcast, so I can't hide it. And I'm okay with that. I mean, it's been nothing but positive experience for me.
Let least us not forget that the standard deck of playing cards is essentially the same type of a magical system hidden within a game. So, everybody's out there playing and dabbling and participating in this, whether or not they're picking up and looking at the symbols and what's going on, and maybe putting a little intention behind the card movement. So, I don't know, Bill. I think you're still being a good Catholic.
Yeah, but tarot's got quite the history to it. I mean, we're talking about, you alluded to that a little bit, but just like with the history of paper, like even going back to China, paper was invented in China. Like this, the whole take on it is, I don't know, you guys should look into it. I won't ramble too much, but yeah, so that's how we know Robert.
Well, I think this is probably, at least for me, a good opportunity, Bill, for a little Felix jingle.
Gratitude, 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 oh, gratitude. Gratitude, 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 oh, gratitude.
So that is Mr. Felix's jingle. He is so stinking cool, man.
I can't believe we have this jingle. I feel so special.
Well, what I wanted to tie in there, Mr. Bill, was tarot. I'm incredibly grateful for it. I've had a lot of really big changes in my life lately, and it's actually just been, I don't know how to put it, it's been a very wonderfully reassuring practice. Yeah, it's been incredibly, I keep saying this, uncanny, but with so many just big changes, it's not changed the shock or surprise or anything, but, I kind of have an archetypal lens to view things through, and it just reassures kind of my own intuition, but kind of gives me, I don't know, I mentioned it in the podcast, just these core rules that are baked into reality, these archetypal things. And, it's really, really uncanny how they seem to overlay themselves with the intent of what you are doing when you're using tarot. So, I'm constantly amazed in the world, whether it be through learning, or doing like water witching, using dowsing rods, or whether it be remote viewing or finding tarot or meditation, or all these wonderfully cool little tricks that we have in the world for just, I don't know, getting a little more out of it, getting a little more vision. I'm grateful. Thanks, Bill. That one's for you.
That's awesome. That makes me happy. But because But yeah, going into it a little bit more, like it is really a conversation with yourself when you break it down to it. Like you think like, I don't want to put this the wrong way, but like you could be thinking that you're asking some higher power or some other entity, but like we're all consciousness, we're all frequency, we're all connected. It's all the same.
Yeah, look,
So,
ultimately it's you, right? Because what's the variable? You're taking a set of cards that you've started out with. You knew the original order. If you got a brand new deck, you've shuffled them around. You have completely controlled everything. Before you pick it up, you're going to reorder them. And the weird thing is that no matter what you do, as long as you do the intention, no matter how you order them, it's going to come out in this just uncanny fashion that gives you, I don't know, something to, I don't know, it gives you more, what am I trying? Like I said, it's that lens. So I don't know where I was going with that, Bill.
No, I was just going to say that something that Robert touched on too, when you're using the tarot, the question is really kind of important.
Oh yeah, and it's all you, right? So you're asking the question, you're ordering the cards. And so what's being reflected in it is ultimately somehow connected to you and your consciousness. Now you could call it a higher self. Is there something else out there in the universe that's got more control over this, system where it's somehow subtly manipulating where the cards will be to give you more information? Or, is your intention being put into this deck, this little computer, this device that has all of these archetypes in them, and you are somehow using this random way of doing it, able to cut, your normal conscious self out of it and get into these deep archetypal things. It's just, if reality is more malleable and, consensus than most people realize, then, that could be, a reflection, a little hack, a little, backdoor into the code.
It's really fun when you start mixing synchronicities in with your cards.
Yeah, and here's the cool thing about it, not to pressure this on anybody, go out and spend $15 on a deck and just shuffle it up good and do a standard 3-card spread. Ask a general question, something, not, what should I eat for dinner, or, should me and my ex-wife separate, but something like, how should I handle, my current, romantic situation, or looking for a lover, or something more that's open-ended in how you would handle, how you would see or view, instead of something so specific. And you will be surprised. Often I'll throw for like, how should I handle myself at work today? How should I handle, this situation? Or, and I don't know, it's very introspective, it's highly reflective. And, when you start to see that, it starts to kind of give you it peels back reality. It lets you know that, look, this is weird. I got some cards, I shuffle them around, I ask a question, and I see correlation. And when you continue to see that over and over again beyond statistics, then, I don't know, it's magical. It gives you that extra window in.
Yeah, you want to be as specific as possible, but still be open-ended. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. If it doesn't,
that is a much better way of saying it than I did.
Yeah, and then ideally, you want your first deck to be gifted to you. I don't know the reason behind it, but that's just what
I have never heard that before.
But yeah, I'm glad that Angie was able to give you yours. I received mine from Starving Pilgrim, which we have gone over on this show before. My first deck was from him, and then I've since passed it on to another member of the Grimerica tribe, Jaybird. I don't know if he listens to this or not, but so it's kind of neat that it has a pedigree now. But man, I was just thinking, like, if I could give every listener to that wants one, like, gift them a tarot deck, I totally would. I think you should. Money to.
I think you should create your own tarot and put it up online for free to print for anybody, and you will have accomplished that.
Oh man, I'm not artistic at all. But
not only that, to do an amazing deck, the amount of just symbolism that is baked in to the cards, really, it's beyond art. I think when you really get into it, it becomes, this beautiful, magical thing.
Yeah, I'm super excited to tie it into another episode. If you guys haven't listened to the KW Barrett one, he's actually creating his own tarot deck, and it should be out in August. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, if listeners want to talk tarot, I mean, you can reach out to me or Adam on Discord. And I don't know, if you're super bored and I'm not doing anything, I could probably throw some cards for someone if they asked. I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm fairly confident.
We can
enough
read
that I
the
could
booklet
construct a
just as
story.
well as anyone else.
Yeah, but yeah, just throw that out there, leave it open ended, I guess. My gratitude has nothing to do with tarot. It has to do with spark plugs.
Whoa, I am thoroughly interested. So you finally learned how to break into cars, right?
No, not. I mean, you just break the window and unlock it, right? No, but my Jeep has been having some issues the last few months, and finally got to my brother's house with the check engine light on, and we hooked it up to one of those code reader things, and decided to start with the spark plugs and see if it helped, and it did. And so, I mean, not only is it nice to have a vehicle that is highway, I feel more secure on the highway now, but like just having the ability to, because I went out and bought spark plugs myself, brought them over to my brother's house, and we changed them in his garage. So like that saved me some cash, and I was grateful for that too. But just to have that thought as a gratitude available to me, like especially this week, like has been just nice to, it's different for a change. And it's because I don't know, it's a bright spot when times have been kind of a little bit challenging, I guess, mentally.
No, isn't it great when you can, identify a problem, work on it on your own, fix it, and it's relatively inexpensive. And, you didn't have to go through the rigmarole and, supporting a local business through your hard-earned cash and time, and, get it finished with a trip to AutoZone, hanging out with your brother and drinking a beer.
Minus the beer, but yeah. No. Yeah, so that was just, yeah, everything you just said. Yeah, it was great. And I'm telling you guys, like this little trick, we talk about it so much because it is efficacious. Like if you can try to implement it into your life as much as you can, it'll change your mind frame, and it'll change your entire, you'll just have a better day. What is it? Yeah. Change my mind. There you go.
Yeah.
That meme.
Crazy that you can just say those 3 words and I already know what you're talking about.
I know, man. Meme magic.
That guy has changed the world right there.
Yeah. Speaking of memes, I can kind of plug the socials here for a second. We have a Gab account. All I do is post memes and a link to our show page. So if you like memes, go check that out, I guess. We're also on Discord, Telegram. So those links will be in the show notes.
Always send us an email at 13questionspodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on 13questionspodcast.com. Telegram. Did you mention Telegram? If you haven't,
yeah.
On Telegram, everywhere. We are in your bathroom.
Yeah, all the links will be in the show notes for there, to those. As far as like, I'm just going through the Discord right now for like trying to find shout outs to give to people that are on there. Not really too much. Wartown Punk says that the gratitude jingle sounds like fun, which it is. So I guess that's the shout out for this episode. Yeah, some listener feedback, guys. Share the show. Pop in, say hi. Are you enjoying it? Other than, the download numbers that Libsyn gives us, which I've been told are not even correct. Like there's really no.
Oh yeah.
No gauge.
How do you know how many people downloaded you legitimately? Didn't share you on other services on files. How do you even know the amount of people that downloaded actually listened to you? How much of the episode did they listen to? There is a billion variables. So, and they go in both directions. They can knock you up and knock you down. we've probably got an order of magnitude of 3 to 4 real people out there listening to the show. But beyond that, the stats are just, we're seeing probably a quarter to a third of what's visible out there. And then beyond that, who knows what people are listening to, except for you. And we're grateful for it.
Absolutely. And I guess the next order of business is, do you want to talk some Shungite?
Ooh, actually, yeah. I'm actually wearing it now. So I haven't, it only comes off at night. I don't really wear necklaces at night, but yeah, I've been thoroughly impressed. And aside from the quartz crystal in my watch, I think this is the longest time I've worn a stone. So yeah, kudos to our guest. And if you guys would like some Shungite, we got an affiliate link. So if you're into stones, check it out. Very, very cool. I've even gifted some of my stones because in that little package we got, I got like 10 pieces of Shungite, and it's such a fun, cool stone because it always has that like cool texture to it. That yeah, my speaking and talking about it excited other people enough that I felt the need to hand them one.
Yeah, I actually gifted some last week. Gave it to that guy who's been.
Oh, I know that
on the
guy.
show.
Yeah, of course I know. Well, that now everybody knows that guy. That guy's been around,
right? I used to take it off when I sleep, but now I leave it on. The only time it comes off for me is when I get in the shower. So yeah, I don't know. Sleeping.
Well, you even eat it, so you're like Shungite obsessed.
Yeah, I go a little overboard.
You are Shungite, literally.
Funny.
That should be your superhero name. I am Shungite.
Yeah, I am the Shungite. Become the technology. Yeah, you guys can even do that if you want to. There's Shungite raw honey infused with Shungite that I take a very tiny spoonful of every day underneath my tongue. I don't know. I don't want to come off as like a broken record on the benefits of Shungite, and it might come off as like too woo-woo, but it's having a positive effect on my life. Adam has had a good experience with it. I know it can be a little bit pricey, but
listen, here's the weird thing. Even if it's completely placebo, and I say that because I feel it calms me down. I can be very not so level-headed sometimes. So I don't know, it kind of takes the top end off of things. I don't know if the right word is grounded, but feels like I have less erratic energy that needs to find its way out when I wear it. So from that perspective, I've kept it on, and it looks cool. I get compliments, so there's like no downside.
Yeah, it does look cool. I usually keep mine tucked in, but now that, I don't know, I've never been kind of a jewelry wearing person, so I'm becoming less and less concerned with keeping it hidden now.
That's another thing, and I hate to ramble on, but speaking of jewelry, one thing that I've been doing a lot more of, and I've seen a noticeable decrease in my headache frequency, and this also goes with the Shungite, is wearing more silver. I've started to buy more sterling silver rings and wearing them. And, there is an absorption into your skin from metals and things that you have up against your body. And I keep colloidal silver. I make colloidal silver for infections and different things like that. And so I've known the benefits, and I never thought in the realm of doing that. So yeah, consciously, I've just been acquiring rings and wearing them every day, not for beautification, but at first, and then just, I'm like, wow, well, this seems to be a correlation. Let's see how it goes. And it seems to keep riding out. So, I'm turning into that rock star, hands.
So, yeah, Shungite, get some, if you want. Will be in the near future other ways that you can support the show and get something tangible besides
it's value for value.
Shungite.
So, what do we say? I like Adam Curry's way of doing it. It's time, talent, treasure. Support in any way that you can, whether it's feedback, whether it's, doing, reaching out to somebody, finding a guest. Like the guest tonight, it was great. We got a bunch of names that we can start, putting in the hat. I know I don't want to make any announcements. We've got some nice guests out there that I think people will know added to the list. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's really exciting when people, take the time, to reach out to us and we see benefit from the show. So, if you want to help us keep the lights on, if you want to help us improve by giving us your feedback, if you want to suggest guests for the show, suggest questions, hop in to the Discord. If you guys have any questions, questions even the right word. If you feel the need or want to interact with us at all on the Discord, just direct. I don't know what the right word is. The @ symbol for us.
Yeah. Mention everybody.
Mention.
Yeah,
there you
mention
go.
Us.
Mention me.
Yeah, everything we do here is value for value. So we will continue to be providing free content. It would be nice to kind of get out from, I don't want to say get out from underneath the umbrella of Grammarica, because that's never going to happen, but at least to be able to have our own billing and not be tied into theirs so much, because we ran into a little slip up at the beginning of this month with storage space issues.
Yeah, well, we converted one of the feeds and oh my gosh, just in the conversion from one file to the next of replacing all the episodes with the full feed, turned out to be something like 900 plus megabytes. So we're talking about almost like a gigabyte of extra data, and that all has to be accounted for the billing process at the end of the month. And, that's something that we would normally be paying in incrementally along the way. And so it was kind of one of those lump sum drops. Thankfully, Grimerica, was there to, cushion that for us. So yeah, everybody that's supporting us, thank you so much. We could not be doing this without you. So thank you, listeners, supporters in all capacity.
Yeah. So sign up for a recurring or one time. That'd be great too. We do have stickers on the way. I promise. Swear. I keep talking about it. It'll happen. Which isn't just another, like, if you want something tangible instead of signing up for a monthly, even though we have all this free content for you, stickers.
Everything's on back order nowadays. I think people are accustomed to that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm super excited to roll that out and share it with everyone. But yeah, I think I don't think I have anything else to hit on.
No, I think we have rambled everybody into a state of hypnoticness and they are ready for the episode.
Yeah, it's a quicker one, but it's a good episode. You guys will enjoy it.
Yep. Enjoy 13 questions with Robert
Bonomo.
13 questions with Robert Bonomo.
So you met a new girl and it worked out great, huh?
Yeah, man. She's sitting right next to me right now, actually.
Ah,
yeah, we're about to buy a house together, and the whole 9 yards. So.
Excellent. Well, that's great news.
Yeah, and it's just so uncanny. You hopped on. Adam was just remarking that he just got his first tarot, and he was remarking how uncanny it is. So.
Yep, it's been very just from the top. That's how I'd explain it. Very uncanny. I like it.
It's weird. Like when you get like for example, Bill's question, you could tell it was one of those serious questions. You never know what kind of answer you're going to get, but you get something. But when people ask, this is one piece of advice I'd give you. Be careful with general questions. Because, yeah.
Wide
sometimes
brushes
you get
paint.
nonsense, and sometimes you get stuff that you really don't need to know. But if you focus it on something really that's bugging you, the quality of the question has a lot to do with how it works.
That's right. The information out is only as good as how it's defined going in.
Yeah.
Don't define it right, just going to be picking up stray signals.
Yeah, dude. Input, output. You get into it, what you put out. Or no. Yeah, you get out. I said that wrong. You get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I guess we'll get started now, Robert. Welcome to 13 Questions. You do have a new movie out. I actually watched it the other day, Twilight of the Archons, that's on YouTube. And you also have another YouTube movie, which I have seen before, 21 Faces of God. That's correct, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that is also on YouTube. Is there anything else that you want the listeners to know or off the top?
No, that's about it. I had an article on the coronavirus that I think it was kind of interesting. It was, are you a clock or an orange? And I think it had it got a lot of interesting feedback.
Right on. I heard you talk about that with Grammarica, but I don't think I've checked it out. But
No.
definitely make that a point to do so. But yeah, let's get started here with first question, number 1. What was the best advice ever given to you? Would you modify it at all today?
Yeah, this was an interesting one. And I think this advice had a lot to do with the setting of it. So I was living in Miami. This would be, I guess, in the mid 90s. And in the Miami Herald, there was a big ad for the CIA. Come join the CIA. And I had gone to grad school. I spoke Spanish. I had, some international experience. I thought, man, this would be really cool. So I go, they give you a talk. And then the next day you go to this hotel and then it becomes like Secret Agent Man. You go in and you go into this dark room. You can't really see the guy. He's kind of like in the shade. And we were just having a conversation about what you would do as an agent. And I never forget what he told me. And I think it affected me because of the situation. We were talking about being in China and the Chinese knew and blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me and he goes, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it waddles like a duck, it probably is a duck. And it hit me and it struck me. And that's very common advice, no? But the older I've gotten, that advice is so true. And because we often fool ourselves. We love to fool ourselves into these narratives that are just total nonsense. But if you can sit back, be rational and say, if this looks like a weird situation, it probably is. Did you ever meet a girl and, she's cute and everything, but she is just crazy as can be. And she is. But you're like, no, maybe she's just a little eccentric. But she's batshit crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to trust your gut.
You got to trust your gut in that initial instinct. When we want things to be something other than they are for whatever reasons, no. If it looks like something, it probably is. And it's so simple, but I think it's so true.
Yeah, and I like that you said that it comes easier with age, I guess. Like the more experience you have with that, because I don't know, another way to put that could be like you can judge a fruit or you can judge a tree by its fruit, or like you can know the roots of it. So yeah, trust your gut, but it takes some
And I remember once I had a job interview. It was in New York. It was for a lot of money. And we went and we had lunch. I had lunch with the other managers. I was going to be like a director. And I was like, these guys are just a bunch of just slime balls. And I should have just listened to it myself. But I wanted the money. And I wanted to move to New York. But I just knew. And when you know. So, just going back, if it looks like a duck, it waddles like a duck, it probably is a duck. It's simple, but it's so true.
Yeah. No doubt. All right. Question number 2. What was the most important lesson you learned from your parents?
Yeah, so I would say from the old man. So my parents, my father was born in 1922, so he would have been considered, like the great generation, veteran of the Second World War, that very old school type guy. And those men were very different. They were usually a little bit ornery. They weren't like warm and fuzzy. They were authoritarian, that kind of thing. Yeah, and these guys were, sometimes they were a little bit difficult to deal with. But the one thing he always said was, if you're going to do something, do it right or don't do it at all. And, it's so true. I'd say the first half of my life, I did everything half-assed. Just about everything I did. But something around in maybe my mid-30s, I decided, you know what? If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. Or I'm not going to do it. And that, I think, is one of the best pieces of advice the old man ever gave me. And it still rings in my head. Sometimes I'm doing something a little bit half-assed, and I say, you know what? Why don't you just do it right? And, I often, because I teach, I'm a university lecturer, and I often tell my students, why are you doing all of these things half-assed? If you're going to send an email, send it right. Proofread it, spell check it, make sure the format's right. And it's funny, the other day I asked them this because I was thinking about these questions. And I said, why should you do things right? And it's for two reasons. One is for yourself. If you do something, you do it well, you feel good about it. And second of all, the people around you are going to appreciate that. You're going to gain a certain amount of respect. And so, yeah, I think it's simple advice, but when you have the chance to kind of finish something well, do it. And like, for example, I've spent a lot of time making films. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. Could they be better? Of course. But you spend 2-3 years doing something and you finish it and you don't say this is perfect, but you say, you know what? It's acceptable. If you're acceptable is most people's exceptional, then you'll do something in life. But unfortunately, it's the other way around.
Yeah, I like that answer. My dad said, often said that, something similar along those lines. If you're going to do something, do it right the first time.
Yeah.
And he was also military vet, not World War II, but I don't know if that might be like a common thing among military people. I'm not sure, but I mean, his point was like, if you don't do it right the first time, you're going to waste, spend more time to go back and do it again.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
All right. Question number 3. What book has been most influential on your life and why?
Yeah. Now, this was a really difficult question for me because I read a lot and I've always read a lot. I mean, honestly, I probably read more than 95% of the people I've ever met. I've read tons. So when I was thinking about this, I remember once I read an article. This guy wrote an article that was brilliant. Talked about how each book has a time. It's like an expiration time in your life. There's certain books you can read in your 20s. Like if you read Hemingway in your early 20s or late teens, I mean, it can be fabulous. But I go back and read Hemingway now. I love the prose, but it doesn't hit me like it did then. And I was thinking about a book when I was like 16. I was madly in love with this girl, absolutely madly in love. And I read The Sorrows of Young Werther by Goethe. That was the most unbelievable book I'd ever read. But if I went back and read that now, it wouldn't quite hit me the same way. So I think this question, you've really got to put it in periods in your life, Memories, Dreams, and Reflections, that book by Jung. That was a really potent book. When I read that, I don't know, late teens, early 20s. But when I go back and read Jung now, I want to read the later stuff. It's more potent for me, right? So I think it depends on the moment. But those are some books for me in my life that were really, for example, in my mid-20s, I read The Selfish Gene by Dawkins. And that turned me into a complete atheist, an evolutionary atheist. That lasted for a couple of years. Some books on Zen have been very important. The Three Pillars of Zen by Philip Kapleau was a really, really powerful book. But if I went back and read that now, it wouldn't quite be what it is. So I guess in the latest period of my life, so in the last, 6 months, it would probably be I Am That by Nisargadatta. Really, really powerful book on Advaita. If you're into the Advaita path, that book is it's pretty amazing.
I've got no idea what that means.
Oh, Advaita, it's just like
Yeah.
non-dualism, sort of like a type of Hinduism.
Okay, interesting. It's called I Am That.
I Am That. It's probably considered one of the great spiritual books of the 20th century.
Okay, so if I Google it, it'll pop up.
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay,
Right.
cool.
No, I kind of like that view because, you know, your perception of everything and how you view things is lensed through everything you've accumulated before. So it's almost like, you know, there is a progression of stepping stones to bring you to the, you know, upper echelons. And the more information you acquire, you know, things can lose their luster only because you've seen it before. So it's in, you know, you need them. You know, you can't just jump into, you know, Carl Jung with, you know, out of just having nothing to do with the field. You would be just lost. You need something to tiptoe you in.
You would be absolutely, if you picked up Aeon or the Mysterium, those later Jungian books, you'd be like, this is total nonsense. But you begin with, say, Memories, Dreams, and Reflections, which is written for a wide audience, and it'll bring you in, you know? But I think there's a period in life when you can kind of get into those things, and there's a period when it's a little bit too late. So, like, for example, have you guys ever read The Red and the Black by Stendhal?
Mm-mm.
That's one of the great novels of all time. And it's about this young guy who's got to decide between becoming a priest or joining the military. He winds up having an affair, and it's a great novel. But I'm not sure it hits you the same way at 50 as it does when you're 20, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like something I want to check out too. The Red and the Black?
The Red and the Black. I think it's probably considered one of the great novels of. I mean, it'd be up there with War and Peace, and you know.
Okay, right on. Question number 4. What daily habits or rituals do you have?
I'm very undisciplined. The only thing I do religiously is smoke. I smoke all day. I'm a chain smoker. So that's really the only, and then I guess the coffee and the cigarette I like to spend without the smartphone. So I'd like to go to a cafe and just don't read anything, just sit there and smoke a cigarette and drink coffee and kind of spin around what's going on.
Yeah, those two things seem to complement each other well. But yeah, I think we've had another guest on the show, Starving Pilgrim. I think he said that was his answer too. He was an unapologetic tobacco user. So yeah, I admire people that yeah, not sorry, you know.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do?
Right?
We've all got our vices.
Gonna die from something. Question number 5. If I were to ask your best friend, what is the one thing they would say you need to work on the most and why?
I have a pretty bad temper. When my cables get crossed, I can get pretty intense. So I mean, that's something I wish I could just let the kind of like off a duck's back type of deal. But sometimes, occasionally, and it's very like forgive and forget. If someone crosses me, if that knife comes in my back, my dying breath, I'll be thinking that fucking guy. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing to be.
But wrath, almost. Yeah, I think, not to cut you off, but like, yeah, I kind of struggle with that too. The forgive and forget thing, you know. I don't know if that's common or not.
And being half Irish and half Italian, it's like on one side I'm a gangster, I want to blow the guy up, and the other one I just want to, throw a Molotov cocktail at him. So it's like genetically too. I think it's a bad mix.
Silver lining is that it's easily identifiable. At least you're not asking, you don't know what needs to be worked on. I don't know. Question number 6. What are you most curious about?
This, I would say, I don't think I'm exceptional in many things. Like, like some people are just exceptional at something. I don't really have any exceptional talents, but the one thing that I would win the gold medal in the Olympics is curiosity. I'm probably the most curious person I've ever met. I have there is nothing I'm not interested in. So for this question, for me, I just love, to me, everything is fascinating. Like, I love physics. I love baseball. I love fishing, carpentry, all sorts of stuff just fascinates me. It's a wonderful way to be because it's very easy conversationally. Like I can talk to anybody because someone is always an expert in something. And for me, I'm always interested in that kind of stuff. And as you get older, it's kind of nice because you sort of know a little. Especially, I'm a triple Gemini, so it's like, curiosity on steroids, and you begin. It gives you a nice, general sort of feel for the world. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's one particular thing I'm curious about because I'm curious about everything. There's nothing that bores me. Cooking, how women do their hair, nothing. I find it all interesting.
Well, since you've got a couple movies on YouTube, do you want to kind of talk about how you came into being interested in tarot, or more recently your new movie,
Sure.
or Twilight of the Archons?
The tarot is something I kind of fell into because as a kid, when I was in my 20s, I had a tarot reading by a very interesting, no, not tarot reading, astrology reading by a very interesting woman who had been a Jungian analyst and gave it up. Her name was Julie Bresciani. I don't know if she's still doing readings, but can you imagine being a Jungian analyst? No, these guys were making like $200 an hour back in the day. God knows what they make now. And it was a very long, after you get your PhD and then everything, you have to go get the training. She gave it up to be an astrologer. So I was kind of interested in astrology, but I didn't know much about the tarot. And I was writing my novel, which novel was it? The last one I wrote, Your Love Incomplete. And I was looking for a narrative structure. And I thought, well, there's 22 major arcana. Why don't I just follow the narrative arc? And that'll give me like a structure for the novel. But I knew really nothing about the tarot. And the tarot is something, as you slowly get into it, you wind up saying, God, I need to learn more about astrology. And I really need to understand alchemy. And you got to learn a little bit of Kabbalah. And so it's like one of those rabbit holes that it can go on and on. And to really understand it, it's much more difficult than people think it is. It's like astrology. You can study astrology all your life and you continue to learn about it. I wouldn't say the tarot is as complex, but it will bring you to places that are that complex. I mean, think about in the 21 Faces of God. Take, for example, the Chariot. When you really look at the Chariot and you understand it, you think, well, this is clearly Plato's allegory of the chariot and the four classical virtues. So then you've got to go into that. You got to go back, read your Plato. There are nuances here. And to really understand it. And that's one thing that bugs me about the tarot. You get a lot of people think, it's something serious. It needs to be taken more seriously, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the tarot's been an immense help to me. So, question number 7. What was the most embarrassing or humbling experience of your life?
I was thinking this. I could give the fake answer, but that wouldn't be fun. So I thought, all right, I'll tell the truth. So I was working for this guy as a consultant. I was making pretty good money, media consultant. So I was doing media buys and things. But I was basically going off the rails. I was drinking way too much. I had a crazy ass girlfriend. And I was just kind of dialing it in. And all of a sudden I get this call, I won't say the city, but you need to fly in and give us the update. And I was just kind of like, I arrive and they're all sitting there and they're like, where are the numbers? And I was like, oh shit. This guy was paying me good money. And I was like, and I just remember just had that look and they're all looking at me. And I was like, well, I was working on it last night and I'll bring it in the morning. This guy was pissed. So I go back to the hotel and I realized I had no idea. Nothing. I had nothing. So I just went to the airport, got on a plane, took off, and left. I ghosted them. That was pretty embarrassing.
Ghosting before it was a thing.
Yeah, this was ghosting. Like,
Right.
where the fuck is this guy? He's gone. I just turned the phone off and I was like, all right. That was really, I was like hitting rock bottom.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, like, if you know it's not something that you're ever going to do, then walking out, I'm saving some time a little bit, I guess. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there are no excuses for that. That was just about as pathetic as a person can be. But, sometimes when you're in a corner, you're like, all right, what are my options here? And there just were no options. Like, I just didn't have the numbers. So I had no idea. So yeah, I could go in and just like fall on my sword, but I didn't have the courage to do that. I mean, if I had courage, I would just gone in and told the truth. But I was just too cowardly to do that.
Well,
That's why it's probably the most embarrassing thing, because not only did I not do what I was supposed to do, I didn't have the courage just to face up to it.
Well, thank you for being honest here. I admire that. Question number 8. What is your greatest fear and how did you overcome it, if you have?
I guess I for a while, I was really afraid of flying, like terrified. I would get like the cold chills and like shake and like, that was about as close as you could come to having a panic attack. I remember once on a plane, I was so nervous. All I could do is keep looking at the stewardess, because I always think, if the stewardess doesn't freak out, that means everything's all right. And I started hearing noises. It was like, did you ever see that Twilight Zone where the guy's looking out the window and there's a like this monster on the wing?
I love that episode.
It's one of the famous, classic episodes.
William Shatner.
Yes, exactly. William Shatner was the guy. Remember, and his wife was taking him out of the nut house. It's such a good episode. And I felt like William Shatner in there. I was like, oh shit. I remember there's a person next to me and I was just like, do you hear that noise? She's like, no. I was like, oh my God. You know how I kind of got over it though? I had a girlfriend once and she said, she was really smart. And I remember she said, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I was like, well, I mean, the plane starts to kind of crack up and then we just start nosediving. And she's like, you'll be dead. You're not even going to feel anything. It's just going to give you kaboom. It'll be like a millisecond probably. And after that, it really didn't bother me. Something about her logic there was just like, it's kind of true. I mean, if you're going to go, it's probably most cases pretty quick. So
yeah, and I've even heard of, just to get a little woo-woo here, I've even heard of stories of like people recounting, I don't know how they do this, like after near-death experiences or whatever, but they'll like their soul will leave the body like the moment before they get hit by a truck or whatever, just to spare the experience of that pain or that trauma before if you're going to cross over to the other side or whatnot.
I often wondered about that. That's one thing I've often wondered, like especially in these horrible accidents, if your soul just kind of escapes. It would be, it'd be nice to think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've also often been very afraid of going to jail. I don't know why. It's just been, whenever I see those movies like dudes in jail, it's just like, oh my God, I don't want to go to jail. And it's funny, once I did go to jail. The most bizarre story. I was living in Russia and I had a permanent visa. So I had a visa to live and work. And I get off the plane, I show the guy the visa and he goes, yeah, you have the right to live and work in Russia, but you don't have the right to enter Russia. I'm like, what? He goes, no. You need an entry visa. And they're like, come with me. And they throw me in jail in the airport. Those airport jails in Russia. I was like, what? And I honestly didn't have any money, like to buy a ticket. And they're like, dude, you're going to stay in jail. it was so funny too, because they stick you in this jail cell and they put those Russian soldiers with the big hats. The guy is standing there the whole time, but he was actually this young kid, and I was like, hey dude, can I smoke in the bathroom? He's all right, but do it quick. And he actually turned out to be a nice kid, and so it wasn't actually that bad an experience. I was hanging out with the soldier.
Making friends in communist jail. Like it. Question number 9. What quality do you most admire in a man? Why?
Yeah. I think what I most admire, I was thinking about this a lot. You can meet a lot of people who are really knowledgeable, like really bright, incredibly knowledgeable. And, but you don't meet a lot of knowledgeable people who are wise, that have real wisdom. So they can combine the knowledge and the know-how and all that intelligence with real wisdom. And when you can meet someone who has both of those, that is something I really, really, really admire, because it's rare. It's very rare. Intelligence is not that. I mean, it's rare, but there are a lot of bright people out there. And there's wise people who aren't that knowledgeable. No, simple folks who just understand what's going on, but they don't have that sort of broad culture. But when you can meet someone who's got both of that, that's something I really admire in somebody.
Yeah, I think that it is important to make that distinction between knowledge and wisdom, and that they're two different things.
Yeah.
And that's one of the I don't want to call sticking points, or I guess talking points of the show, 13 Questions, is to memorialize wisdom. At least that's one of the goals that I have for the show, or that I see for the show, is to record this wisdom, because when we have guests on, or when Adam and I talk to people, or even our own episodes, we're the culmination of all that has been passed down to us up until this point. So that is also speaking to like the sacred center, going back to tie it back into tarot, like everybody's sacred center of their own universe and points of consciousness. But yeah, going back to the memorializing wisdom thing, that's just one of the points that we try to emphasize on the show. And it's just something that it's kind of the reason why this show is kind of around, to make sure that this information is not lost, and that we're able to pass it on to people that will be around after we are gone.
And if you think about the chariot, the charioteer, that's the intellect. But the classical virtues, that's what wisdom. One of the classical virtues was wisdom. Wisdom with intellect. The charioteer, he guides the chariot in the right direction.
Yeah, there's a lot of symbolism, and the chariot card in general is just, there's a lot going on there for sure. Question number 10. Who were/are your role models, and why?
Oh yeah, when I was a young kid, I loved Julius Erving, the basketball player. He was like my total idol. As I got older, I got really into Hemingway, and for Hemingway for me was really important, because I read a lot of Hemingway. I wound up living in Spain for 10 years, and I got really into bullfighting. One of my novels has some bullfighting in it. I loved Hemingway. He was really, really important to me. As I got older, then I see Joseph Campbell, and you can tell when you watch the Twilight of the Archives, there's a lot of Joseph Campbell in there. As an older person, more mature, Joseph Campbell I would say, is one of those people I really admire a lot, because he embodies that, what we were talking about, with the knowledge and the wisdom. It's both there, and that's what's so rare, I think, in people. And he would definitely be one of my major idols. But for example, a lot of athletes I admire too.
Any in particular?
Boxers. I like boxing a lot. Mickey Ward. I love Mickey Ward.
Oh, he is amazing.
Yeah. When I'm down in the dumps and I watched that ninth round of the first fight of Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti. Wow. Just inspires me. Because I'm half Irish and half Italian. So it's like one half of me fighting the other. Arturo Gatti's from a village like 60 kilometers from where my father's from.
Nice.
And my mother's like Irish Catholic. So it's like half of me's in there fighting the other half. That's a great fight. If you like boxing, just watch that ninth round. It's absolutely amazing.
Question number 11. What institution of society or structural aspect of modern life would you change given the chance?
Banking. Absolutely. The way banking works and the way it's presented to us and what it actually is are very different. If we change the banking system, we could eliminate what I would say is sort of one of the limits on our society in general, and that's false scarcity. I mean, there's so much potential that just in the economy that we have now, but there's like what are those things that limit the throttle? What do they call those in a car? It's like it won't let the
governor
throttle go all the way up. A what?
A governor?
A governor, exactly. It's like a governor on what we can do. Like these guys today arguing about, the 1.4 trillion or 1.8 trillion. It doesn't matter. It makes no difference. I mean, if you understand really what's going on with money, they're just going to print it anyway. And the deficits are completely false. So what we don't want to give is too much money to cause inflation. But as long as we keep it at a point where the economy is not reaching that sort of 80-90% of its potential, it's not going to be inflationary. And it really gets me angry. Should we send $1,600 or $2,000? It makes no difference because no one's going to pay. It's not like it's going to be paid back in taxes. They'll just sell bonds and then they'll buy them back. So if we understood banking, I think we could release so much potential in our society and move a lot of people who really are having a tough time of it. We could just give them a boost. Get them to a point where, they've got their nut covered. And then they can make much better decisions in life. But yeah, I think banking and our concept of money is what I would change.
Yeah, that seems to be kind of a hot topic, more so in the recent times, because I don't know, I got into the whole rabbit hole of how your signature creates the money and the Fed is just as federal as Federal Express and whatnot. It just seems to be a lot more conversation around those topics now compared to, even a few years ago or whatever. So hopefully that's, is going to change sometime soon. But
if you're interested in that, I think my film, Twilight of the Archons, it goes into it, I think enough to give you a general idea. But it really pisses me off because we could have, and I'm not some kind of a socialist. I believe in private property. I don't believe in going and taxing people to death. No. We can create money and bring us to our potential with everyone keeping what they have without having to tax people. That's the thing. They say, if you want to have sort of a social net, you got to tax. They play that game and it's bullshit. It's just not true. Mathematically, it's not true. But they play that game because, I understand people don't want to be taxed to death. I don't want to be taxed to death. But the money the government spends doesn't come from taxes. And when you understand that, you go, what?
What's your take on cryptocurrencies?
I think people get a little confused with crypto. I honestly do. Like, for example, there is no difference on a theoretical level between Bitcoin and gold. What's the difference? All Bitcoin is digital gold. Gold has no value. I mean, there's some industrial value to it, of course. And of course, silver does too. But basically, gold as money, why? Go on a desert island with $10 million of gold, and what are you going to do? So I just see gold and Bitcoin as exactly the same. I think the question is, can we develop a currency? Because if you look at a Bitcoin, what's a Bitcoin really worth? It's worth the energy it takes to mine one. That's all it is. It's storing that value. So it's classic money in a digital form. But could we create a cryptocurrency that we created the value? So imagine someone actually did work for you, and you said, yes, this person did this amount of work, and you created that money. And then we use that money. You see what I mean? A completely decentralized money. But that, because mining Bitcoins, what does mining Bitcoins do? Does it help anybody? Has anyone gotten a meal, gotten a roast beef sandwich from mining Bitcoins? No. But if instead of mining Bitcoins, it was actually work. Imagine in a community, older people now in the coronavirus, maybe they need some help doing some shopping, painting their house, doing stuff like this. You do those things, and we use a blockchain to kind of validate that this is not corrupt. Yeah, this person is doing these things, and you create a certain amount of value, and you can use that value in the community. I think Bitcoin, I see Bitcoin as, I don't see it any different than gold. But I would like us to come up with a money that actually was work. So yeah, I want some money. Will you do something? No, go out and do something. Don't mine Bitcoins. So that's just mine. I'm not a big expert on it, though. So.
Yeah, I was just curious about your outlook on it. It'll be, no matter what happens, it'll be interesting. I'm sure. Yeah. Question number 12. What is the most courageous thing you have ever done or seen in your life?
Yeah, this one was really, really tough. What did I write down here? Well, I got to go back and check this one. Oh, now I remember. I'm probably being too honest here, but no one I know is going to watch this anyway, probably. So I remember once I was madly in love with this girl, absolutely madly in love. And I could tell she really didn't love me. You know, when you're living with somebody and you just get that feeling, it's a difficult feeling. And so I remember it was like all night we're just talking, blah, blah. But, I was just like, this is not going to work. But I really loved this girl. So I had to go to work in the morning. I hadn't slept. So I go and I take a shower, and I'm taking the shower and I'm thinking, all right, well, this is it. The typical, this is it. She'll go her way, I'll go my way. But I really loved her. And I remember I had this moment where I realized if you love somebody, you really just have to love them. And I remember I came back in the room and it said, I said, it doesn't matter. I love you and do what you want. And I think that's probably the most courageous thing I ever did. I mean, she eventually left. But you know what I mean? It was just like, instead of playing the game, I said, all right, I'll be completely vulnerable. And I think that's probably the most courageous thing I ever did. And I knew it was going to happen. But still, I had the balls to be honest.
Yeah, that's a spot that I can personally attest to, and I think you know some of the background of that story. So, well, not apples to apples, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, being vulnerable is difficult, I think, especially because it's not really something that you see men doing or talking about, especially when it comes to like being in relationships.
But that's I think being about as manly as you can possibly be.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because that's when you say, you know what, I love you and you're free and you can go, but I'm not going to be a bitch about it. I'm going to be honest and say, I do love you.
Yeah, and being
that's
honest,
I think about as ballsy as you can be. It's really easy to say, I did this for you and you ruined my life. No,
and drag it out.
Yeah, and be a bitch. No. Be a man. Take the punch, and what are you going to do?
Well, on that note, question 13, what does it mean to be a man in today's world?
Whoa. We could get in a lot of trouble here. We could get deplatformed probably 5 times.
Whatever.
This is a really tough question. And we all know what the politically correct answer is. So if we were on one of these stupid network television shows, we know what that answer would be, right? And you know what those people can do? I won't use the words, but you know what they can do. To be a man in today's world, I was thinking about this. It's to have the courage to reject the spirit of the day and really, really go back and be exactly who you are. Say what you think politely. Don't insult people. And I really don't believe in insulting people because of their race or their gender or their sexual orientation. I don't mean that. But I mean speaking from your center and saying what you believe in a polite way and sticking to your guns. And if they deplatform you, if they call you a conspiracy theorist, if they call you a nut, fuck them. And I'll give you an example. In May of last year, I wrote an article saying that chances are this coronavirus came from a lab. And the guy, Peter Daszak, look him up. He came out and said, the reason we have a coronavirus is because we're going into the forest and, it's like this anti-green movement, all this nonsense. And I said, yeah. Guys in hazmat suits going into caves, cleaning up the shit of bats, and then doing gain of function, fucking around with their DNA and coming up with these crazy, that's not fucking around with nature. And I was right. The article I wrote got banned. Put it in, I had somebody say, put it into Facebook and it gets banned. And I was right. Now they're all saying that. And now he's being the bad guy. So you got the balls to say and do what you think. And I don't mean in antagonizing people, being rude, but just telling the truth. That's what it means. Because I'm telling you, if we don't, they are going to screw our entire society up. These people have no idea what they're doing. And they're turning us all against each other, and it's going to get ugly. So I think you're a man today, have a solid pair, and really say what you believe. Because most men out there are afraid. Yes, of course, yes. No.
I think that's a great answer because it's time for people to wake up, and to me it's kind of overdue. And how ridiculous do things need to get? I don't know, I'm going to rant here for a second, I guess, but we're banning Dr. Seuss now. All of this is, to me, just gone off the rails. And I think it's just time for people to wake up. But going back to your point of having the balls to speak out from your center politely, like you said, but that's why I was really drawn to this show, because this gives people the opportunity to do that. And one of the other aspects is for this project is to make it kind of open source. We like to encourage our listeners to send in their own conversation with somebody that they admire, or get us in contact with them. But it's a chance to testify, and I think that's important. And I'm just happy to have this platform to be able to offer people the opportunity to do.
And I just want to add, it's important not to fall back into our tribalisms of the men or this group or that group. That's not what I mean. It's staying in the center and speaking, about what unites us, what keeps us as one. It's not becoming some kind of a nationalist or something like that, but just being honest, like the Dr. Seuss stuff or the incessant nonsense that's getting thrown out there. It's just to say no. Like take a guy like Matt Taibbi, guy I respect, who said, you know what? I'm going to leave Rolling Stone, go to Substack, and say what I believe. Or Glenn Greenwald. There are people out there who are doing it, and I respect them.
Yeah, anything that is divide and conquer, anything that tries to, distract is really what needs to be called out and pointed out right now, I think. All right, so we've got time for the bonus questions then, right?
Yeah, I've got time for you here.
All right. First bonus question. What quality do you most admire in a woman?
I was assuming that you didn't mean the physical quality, right?
Well, it is open-ended, so, I mean...
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from that one because it only get me in trouble. But I like women who are real smart asses. I don't know why, but like women who will give me shit, but in a good way, not like not pain in the ass, like, do the dishes, but like who'll bust my balls. I love that quality. And there's a type of woman who will bust your balls but on the other hand, they're solid as a rock. The ones that they'll love you like to the end, like they don't have that gray thing a lot of women have. Did you ever come home from work and some guy was just fucking with you all day and you're like, I want to strangle this bastard. And your wife's like, well, maybe he has a point and, you should look at both sides of it. No, I want a woman who's going to say, kill the fucker. When a woman does that, when she's like, I'm behind you, I got your back. I love that. But he's also a ball buster who'll bust my balls a little bit. Because, it's like who has a sense of humor. Like those wild Irish chicks sometimes are like that.
Right on. Question number 2. What rule do you have for yourself that you never break, and why do you think that it's important?
Oh, God. I've broken every rule I've ever made for myself, at least twice. I don't think there's... But if I really, really think about it, there is one rule I really try and never break. It's as sacred as I think any rule can get for me. And that's in my art and in my writing, to be honest. Doesn't mean it's going to be good. I've made stuff that's shit and written stuff that's shit, but it was honest. When you lie, when you write, especially if you're publishing things, if you're not completely honest, if you don't have the guts to say what you really believe is true, you're a piece of shit in my book. So that is one rule I really try. Now, there are topics I'll avoid because I know they'll be offensive. The truth is often offensive. So that is different. But to bend that truth, to make it a little bit more easier to swallow, no, I won't do that. And if I do that, then I'm a complete worthless piece of shit. So that rule, I really, 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 really try. I hope if I've broken it, it's only been a few times.
Well, that speaks to journalistic integrity.
Yeah,
I guess.
When you find your voice as a writer or as an artist, when you really find your voice, it takes a long time. I mean, it's not something you learn in 6 months. You write something and it just rings. It's just like a certain sound, and you go, "Holy shit, that's it." But you've got to stay true to that voice. If you start fucking around to get published here or to get more listeners or readers or something, you're a worthless piece of shit. So that's what I really try. That's the one. I try and stay true to that voice. It took me forever to find it. I never forget the day I wrote something. I was in my 40s when I finally wrote something that I said, "Holy shit." It's like, wow, I found it. It's like a musician when you all of a sudden you go, yeah, that's my sound. I'm not faking it. It's my sound.
It's your own personal resonance frequency.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a special, like you were saying, the people that, right, there's a point to persuasive writing. I get that. But to like bend the truth, like you were saying, the people that do that on purpose, there is a special place in hell for them.
And they know who they are. Yeah. Like the entire New York Times.
Yeah.
They know. They're too smart. You know, it's easy to think they're stupid. Never assume your enemy's stupid. They're smart, and they know exactly what they're doing, and they're lying. And they're being dishonest to themselves, which is the worst part.
Yeah, it's like cheating on a test. You're only hurting yourself.
Yeah. But see, I have no problem cheating. I've cheated on a million tests. I could give a fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
it doesn't really bother me. But writing something that's dishonest and publishing it, I don't mean dishonest. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I can't do it.
What would you tell your teenage self?
I was thinking about this, and I came up, I think, with the correct answer. Absolutely nothing. Because I would only fuck it up. Like, I feel, in a strange way, quite fortunate. For reasons most people wouldn't feel fortunate. But I wouldn't change. There's nothing about where I am or what I would change. So I think if I went back and told myself something, I would fuck it up. I would tell nothing. Just keep doing what you're doing, kid.
That's fair, because like I think I made the argument when I answered the questions. I was concerned that I would like change something in the timeline or whatever, you know?
Yeah. So yeah. And I think there's a certain humility in it, because you get to where you're going. It's not like you did it, you know? Like, I don't really feel like I got where I got because of me. I feel like I got lucky. So going back, you know, there's a certain hubris in thinking, well, I could have done a better job. I'll let the universe, I think the universe did a pretty good job, and I'll take what I got.
Bonus question 4. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
You know, when I was thinking about this from an artistic and aesthetic level, it's what turns me off. It's clear, is I hate cliches. I despise them. So I guess, the opposite of that is something that's really authentic art. And I hate all this social engineering, like these movies where they're like teaching you how to be a good person, that kind of shit. It just makes me want to vomit. So artistically, it's something that's really authentic. And it's so rare today to find stuff that really rings true. But on a more kind of just everyday level, I'm a sucker for like the utility infielder goes in and hits the big home run. Like, did you watch the ADL last year? There was that. Oh, who was he? He was like a utility infielder or something for the Devil Rays, Mike Brousseau. And Chapman had thrown at his head a couple weeks before. Chapman throws hard, man. That dude throws like 100 plus. And this kid came in, utility infielder, and pop with that home run, stuff like that, you know. Travis Ishikawa's home run. I'm a big Giants fan. Those kind of things, you know, I like those.
Underdog kind of?
The little guy getting in there and getting his one shot and just crushing it. That always gets me going. Jimmy Braddock, you know, remember Cinderella Man, that film?
Yeah, that was a boxing movie. Great movie.
Right, by Jimmy Braddock. I love Jimmy Braddock, those kind of guys. Man.
It was like, what was his nickname? Like the Devil or something?
Jimmy Braddock was the something of Bergen. The Bulldog of Bergen, I think was.
Bulldog. Yeah, it always reminded me of Daredevil. You know, the Marvel. I think it's Marvel or DC. Daredevil, the blind, lawyer whose dad was a boxer growing up in Hell's Kitchen.
Oh, right, yeah. You know, he might have been from Hell's Kitchen, Jimmy Braddock. He could have been. He could have been from that area in New York. You know, it's amazing, too, and it's a true story in the film, but I went back and looked it up. It's true. He was working on the docks, and he had 3 days' notice to take a fight. 3 days against a guy who was a potential contender, and he won the fight. That's extraordinary. That's an extraordinary story. Some dude's working on the docks. Like, you want to fight? You got 3 days.
Yeah, sports. There used to be like a different ball game back in the days. Old baseball players. What are they doing? Coke in the dugouts. There's some crazy stories out there. Yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah. Do you remember that Game 6 with the Mets and the the Mets and the Red Sox. Remember that famous? What was it? The
Oh,
night-
yeah.
Goes in between his legs. Is that what?
Keith Hernandez came up. He got out. He went in the duck. He drank. Had like 3 beers. And remember, he came back up again. He admits he was in there drinking. He had like 3 or 4 beers. He thought they had lost. That was a great baseball game.
Bonus question 5. What is your single greatest driving force in life, and how do you further it?
I think at this point in my life, it's the spiritual quest. Like to really just be able to truly wake up, to become awake. And it's interesting, they talk about this in Vedanta and stuff. There is a point where there's no going back. It's like the lion's got you by the head. So at this point, you really can't. It's like taking half the red pill. You can't take half of it.
Yeah, once you know, you can't unknow.
Yeah, but the problem is there's a sort of this point you're kind of in limbo. So you don't know, but you can't go back to not knowing, and you're kind of fucked. You got to go one way or the other. It's like once I was at this place and we were taking 5 MEO DMT. And that was an amazing experience for me. But later on that day, I saw this girl take the hit. And when she came out of it, she was just screaming, "Get me out of here. I want this to stop." It was pretty terrifying because it was just too much. So, I mean, there's a point where, you either lose your mind or you get through. Let's hope I get through.
But yeah, the spiritual quest, that would be like kind of completing the great work, right? The opus magnum kind of.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what the tarot talks about. Like the whole Trump suit is that journey, right?
The judgment card. I think I did a pretty good job of that in the judgment card in the 21 Faces of God, where, it's the apocalypse. Remember that last scene I used from that film, by what's his name? Where the world just kind of blows up.
Dude, it's such a great film. I watched it once. I watched it before you gave me my tarot reading, actually, and I've been meaning to go back and rewatch it now that I'm actually like getting, neck deep into tarot. But
yeah, it'll be interesting to go back now because you'll pick up a lot of stuff the second time around. If you've actually been doing readings and studying them, it'll help a lot.
Bonus question 6: what do you choose to ignore?
For me, I think, especially as I've gotten older, it's the material side of things. I mean, I'm pretty happily poor. So, I mean, I live on the fringe, but I mean, I'm not starving to death. So, I got a teaching job. I teach at a university. And I teach my hours every week. I got just enough to get by, but I don't really give a fuck about, anything. Like cars, or I haven't had a car in like 10 years. I don't have a TV. I don't have a smartphone. I have one of those old Nokia phones. Like the material stuff, I really don't give a shit about. And I used to. I mean, I used to like stuff, but now I could really care less.
Yeah, I would like to think that there's a shift away from materialism happening currently, but as I'm just one perspective, so I could be completely wrong. I don't know.
I think there is. I think it's one of the really nice things about the younger generation now. They understand that they don't have to own things. You can grab an Uber, you can rent a house. You don't have to have this. I think it's one of those nice things that especially you see in the younger millennials and the Gen Zs, that they understand that, but also I do think there's an issue. At mid-age, people need to just relax a little bit on the material stuff. It's a young man's game or a young person's game. Young families need stuff. Once the kids are out of the house, it's okay to, you know what I mean? Go a little bit lighter.
All right. Last bonus question. What do you hope people will say at your funeral?
I guess if I could pick one thing, I'd say that I was authentic, that I lived an authentic life. I mean, I have a bit of a difficult character, I admit. Some people are going to say, yeah, he was a bit of an asshole, but at least he was an authentic asshole. If they say I was an authentic asshole, that's good enough for me. I'll take it. I'll sign off on that.
Fair enough. Well, that is it. I think that's the quickest that we've got through the questions ever.
It was very concise, and that's good. It keeps you from going into the wee hours over there.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I go too quickly?
No, not at all.
Perfect.
I thought, yeah.
No, I mean, we still got some time to chat here at the end. We're kind of hoping to do that anyway. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we have been kind of toying with the idea of keeping the show just at 13 questions. We won't do it for this episode, but just for honestly operating expenses. Like, it takes money to publish these long episodes. Like this last one we just put out was like 232 megabytes, and that's, we got to up our subscription to Libsyn to accommodate for the storage or archive shows early. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. What first impressions when I asked you to come on the show? What do you think now after you've been through it, etc.?
Oh, I think it's a lot of fun, and it gave me something to think about because I thought about it in the last couple of days, and it's funny. The other day it was it's the end of the semester for us. We work in trimester, so it was the last class. So the end of the last class, you want to screw around a little bit. So I showed them the questions. So it was fun with the kids. They're 18, 19 years old. And I wanted to tell you this. This was so funny. The Gen Z, this was such a Gen Z answer. I'm like, what about books? I give my little speech on books that I gave you guys. And I said, well, what was your favorite book, young man? He's like, oh, I read this great book, man. It was awesome. I haven't finished it yet, but I was like, are you fucking kidding me? The most important book you've ever read and you haven't finished it yet? It was like, I'm going to plaque up for what a loser. But can you imagine the most important book you ever read and you just haven't had time to finish it?
Well, I guess if it's the only book you've ever read.
That's a good point. But I thought that was kind of funny.
Well, I'm glad that you shared it with your students. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, we had some fun with it,
Yeah,
These are good questions. They're really good questions.
Yeah, like I was saying, I mean, these are all the questions that Darren came up with when I think he asked like a select group of. Adam knows more about the backstory. He's been here longer than I have, but
yeah, it was essentially just a lot of people that Darren really respected, and he put forth to them. I don't know if it's a challenge, but just kind of, hey, look, we're going to be doing this podcast for men in the 21st century with just really deep, insightful wisdom. What questions kind of pick or get at that, and it was just a conglomeration of questions from a large group of people, and so yeah, it's a collaborative effort.
Those two are so much fun. I think I've been on that show twice. I always have a great time.
Oh yeah, Darren and Graham are great.
They're very laid back, but they're very authentic. They never kind of bullshit you. They give you these crazy ass.
Right.
That's why I like being around them. You can just say whatever you want.
Yeah, that's what drew me, and I'm sure Adam, to be Gramericanos. So
no, absolutely. Yeah, there is an air of authenticity and danger within what they do now in the world. When you're sharing information freely, you become a target. So, yeah, it is. It's not so much brave of them because it's who they are and it's just how they operate. There is no other way. Dangerous or not. So, yeah, I really respect those guys.
I think they put me on Outlawed.
Oh, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I went on a fucking crazy rant, man. I had like 3 codes because I had to stay up to like 4 a.m.
That was a great episode.
And I was just like, fuck everything. It was kind of funny. They were like, holy shit, dude.
Why it's on Outlawed.
I had fun, though.
But yeah, we try to be authentic here. Thank you for being authentic. Thanks for sharing it with your students. We don't, any I don't think our downloads are very high in Central Europe, so any help would
I
be
should be
appreciated.
all right.
And then so like if you like know of anybody that would make a great guest, or if you wanted to, if you have an inkling to ask these questions yourself to whoever and send it in for an episode, we'd be glad to do
Have
that.
you had Miguel on from Aeon Byte? I think it'd be interesting that, Miguel Connor.
We have not.
Oh,
I
you
am familiar with that show.
Yeah, we've had Gordon White on, who they podcast together quite often. So yeah, it'd be a pairing we should look into.
He's a good friend of Gordon's been on Aeon Byte a bunch of times. And Miguel's such a cool guy. He's so interesting. And he's really laid back, like he's like really calm, laid back. But he's got some wild stories too from his past. So I think he could be really interesting. There's another guy I like a lot. I've been on his podcast many times. Is Al Borealis. Forum Borealis.
Yep.
Al's an interesting cat, man. I think it'd be really interesting to hear him give his feedback here.
There you go, Bill, for your ledger.
Yeah. See what I can do.
Oh, have you had Alex on? Alex from Skeptical?
I don't believe so. No, I don't
Nope,
believe so.
not as of.
Oh, you should have Al. You should have Alex. Alex is interesting. He's an intense dude. He's super fucking smart. But I think people, and a lot of people would be interested in his, like what books influenced him, and he's a really interesting guy.
Oh yeah,
really
great podcast too. If you're interested in anything, whether it be with consciousness or just perceived science, or where we're at today with just the modern
near-death
world,
experience, all that kind of stuff. He's real into that.
Yeah,
he's an interesting cat. Yeah, I think that'd be really interesting to have him on.
Yeah, I will definitely try to get a hold of those guys.
Oh yeah, you'll if you ask Graham's got all their emails and he knows them all that stuff.
Right on.
They're all friends with each other, so they'll hook you up.
Well, is there anything else you want to let the listeners know about before we wrap things up?
Yeah, just check out my new film, Twilight of the Archons. It's it's the last thing I've done, and I'm pretty. It's not perfect, but I'm pretty satisfied with it. So, if you're interested in consciousness, money, these types of things,
yeah, I liked it. It's not that long either. An hour, not even an hour, right?
That was 47 minutes.
40, yeah. So, check it out, guys. Hit the like button on YouTube, or
share it, do all that nonsense.
Right. Adam, do you have any closing thoughts on tarot? Well,
no. We didn't really get into it, but if there's any listeners out there that are interested, I highly encourage them just to grab a deck and just throw a couple 3 cards out and see what happens, because you will be surprised. I found it. It's not so much a fortune telling thing in my experience. It's more of kind of just a reassurance. You get to look at a set of archetypes, which are, just these baked in kind of rules of reality. And it reassures you like, yeah, this is how I'm feeling. And now I can kind of see it orchestrated in an allegory that makes sense. So I'm comfortable. And then, it's not that things aren't going to be a surprise, but when they come at you, you're like, okay, well, I knew a wave was coming. Here it is, let's ride it out.
Yeah. And not to plug my own stuff, but I do have that film, 21 Faces of God. It's free. It's on my YouTube channel. If you're it's a great way to get introduced to the major arcana.
Definitely be checking that out.
Check that out too.
Are you still doing readings, Robert?
No. Not so much anymore. I have some client. I have like my clients who are like, come every once in a while, every couple of months. Not so much. As the more I got into Vedanta, I kind of backed off that a little bit.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying like you kind of took mine because it was because of the nature of the question. It was a little bit more on the serious end, right?
I won't do general questions. I don't do health questions at all. You can fuck with people's heads doing health questions. I really recommend people don't do health questions, because you can actually cause people to have health problems.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, because it's, what do they call that? When your mind starts, so got to be careful with that stuff. But if you look with real serious dilemmas, the tarot is amazing.
Why is one man rich and another man poor? Why we ain't satisfied? Why we gotta have more? Why your suicide rates on the rest so high? Why I tell you the truth but you say don't lie? Why is being a good father at an all-time low? Why is it acceptable? Yo, why? I don't know. Why she blame him and he blame her? It's useless. Ask yourself this question. Why you making excuses? Why do parents gotta bury their kids? Why we text and drive, not caring how scary it is? Why it's so hard to forgive and leave the past behind? And if you did, then that's divine. Why don't you help your brother when you see him fall? Why do we act like God don't see it all? Why do we call them black, them white, them Asians and use labels? Now that's racism.
I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Why? I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Why? I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Why? I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why is there innocent people locked up for life, while some people can't say nothing nice? Why do we always gotta question what all of it means? And why won't you follow your dreams? Tell me why. The night when you took my dad, why'd you let me see my grandpa cry? And tell me why. And why do you choose to hide, even though you was born to fly? And tell me why. And why don't we turn from all the hate? And why don't we learn from all mistakes? Why do I keep on wrecking these fat beats? And teachers don't make more than professional athletes? And why? And why? And why? And why? And why? And why?
I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Why? I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Why? I don't wanna Hawaii. I don't wanna Hawaii. Why? I don't wanna Hawaii. I don't wanna Hawaii. Why?
This should be considered entertainment and not therapy. We hope you benefit from our resources available at 13questionspodcast.com. Thank you for listening.